morning, everybody. We're back with take 2 with my friend Noah the bald eagle. We apologize for the sound difficulties we were having earlier. I'm going to try my best to make sure you can hear me nice and clear this time. So again, my name is Laura and I'm an educator here, and I have Noah the bald eagle with us today. So he is one of our ambassador eagles, which means he helps us to teach. And not only that, he has an extra special job. So he is one of our live mascots for the Philadelphia Eagles football team. And Noah's actually been doing this for quite a while. We have 2 birds here that usually go down to every home game and to training camp and every Eagles event. Unfortunately, like most of the world right now, Noah's life is a little different, and unfortunately we haven't been able to do anything with the Eagles this year. But that doesn't mean that Noah's not busy. He comes out into the zoo to meet guests and participates in training every day. So bald eagles are very well recognized. They are the national symbol for the United States. And at a time like right now, where we're all going through a lot of change and there's a lot of political stuff happening, it's nice to look back and see the symbol of the U.S. that represents strength and perseverance and majesty, not only as an animal, but also as a conservation message. So Noah, like many other bald eagles, has that white head and white tail. And this was one of the things that kind of attracted people to them when we were deciding on a national symbol. So in 1782, it was declared that the bald eagle would represent the United States on so many of our different seals and money. And the funny thing is, though, is that not everyone agreed that this animal was a good representation. In fact, Benjamin Franklin actually preferred the turkey, the wild turkey, as our representation compared to a bald eagle. Now, many people think of a bald eagle and they see a strong bird, very powerful, large wings, they're beautiful, and they have a pretty long lifespan. They can live well into their 40s, if not longer, and they're actually one of the few eagles that are native to the United States. So all of those things made them a good choice, but in Ben Franklin's eyes, he thought that eagles were a little bit cowardly and a little bit lazy, and that's for 2 main reasons. One, eagles will steal food from other birds, so they will kind of take a seat, watch, and wait and see if any other animals, smaller birds of prey like osprey or ducks, if they catch some food, and then they'll swoop in and try to steal it. So they can be a little lazy. Maybe they just work smarter, not harder, right? But they also portrayed kind of a cowardly image to Ben Franklin, because he would see smaller birds, like even songbirds and crows and things, chasing bald eagles, and the bald eagles would be fleeing to get away. Now, this is one of our largest species of bird of prey found in North America, so how on earth could it possibly be threatened by a tiny little songbird? Well, that behavior is actually called mobbing, and many songbirds and smaller bird species will chase away large birds of prey in an attempt to protect their families and their nest areas. So it wasn't uncommon, and it doesn't just happen to bald eagles, but to Ben Franklin, that was a sign that we didn't want this bird as our symbol. However, despite his opinion, they were decided on, and since then they have represented us, as I said, on many different types of money, coins, and all kinds of things. Now, bald eagles also represent an amazing conservation success story. So unfortunately, about 40 years ago, they were nearly extinct. And that was due primarily because of a pesticide, a chemical used to kill off bugs, called DDT. And DDT was something we would spray on our crops to get rid of those insects that were going to steal our food and kind of reduce the crop levels. And what would happen is that this DDT would wash off the crops, potentially into the water source. If it didn't wash off, it also got eaten by the bugs that would then get eaten by other animals. So unfortunately, it ended up in the food chain. So bugs would get eaten by other smaller creatures. Those smaller creatures would get eaten by bigger ones, and so on and so forth. And what happened with eagles is they're actually fish-eating birds. So they would hunt for fish near the water and consume fish that unfortunately had levels of DDT inside of them. Now, that pesticide wouldn't kill the birds, but what would happen is, unfortunately, those levels would cause their eggshells, when they laid eggs in their nest, to be brittle. So mama eagle would lay her eggs, she'd go to sit on them, and unfortunately they would crack and break. So if you don't have any more baby eagles hatching out, unfortunately your population starts to decline very quickly. They also were hunted and persecuted. People were fearful that they might be attacking their livestock, their small pets. They were also killed illegally for their parts. Many different cultures value eagle parts as something very symbolic and important, and if they didn't have access to eagle carcasses, unfortunately they could take live eagles and try to use those parts. So there are many different factors that ended up causing them to be almost extinct, but thankfully we saw this trend, and as our national symbol, it got a lot of attention. So we put in some laws to protect bald eagles and their counterparts, the golden eagle. and many other birds of prey and migratory birds for that fact. And DDT was banned in 1972, at least in use in the United States. And so since then, over the last 40 years, they have made an amazing comeback. So they are found across the United States in almost every state, and their numbers have flourished. So they are no longer listed. As of 2007, they are no longer listed on the endangered species list. So they are an amazing success story of what we can do, what people can do when we realize there's a problem and how we can turn it around. So hopefully, we'll be able to put that attention towards other species that need our help. Now Noah here is a special case. He lives with us at the zoo because unfortunately when he was about 8 weeks old, he fell out of the nest and landed on his head. And so he did suffer some neurological damage, some brain trauma, and he did damage his eye. So as he turns, you might notice that he is in fact missing his left eye. Now he had that up until about 2 years ago. We did decide to remove it because we knew it wasn't functional, it didn't work, and it was causing him some chronic issues. So he's much happier without it now, but it does limit his ability to see. It can affect his depth perception. So unfortunately that would restrict his ability to survive in the wild. And again, he did land on his head, so there could be some brain trauma. Now, Noah will live out the rest of his life here with us. He is 19 years old, and eagles, as I mentioned earlier, can live well into their 40s, if not longer. And so they have a pretty big lifespan, so he'll require care throughout the rest of his life. And we try to do our best here to make sure that he is comfortable and happy and set up for success in his job. So Noah is trained to come out voluntarily onto a glove and to step into a crate, go on a scale, and then of course sit on his perch. So this perch here is where he will hang out at the games. When he hangs out in the zoo, he sits on this perch, and we make it a positive place. He gets lots of snacks here, he gets to sun himself, sometimes we give him little baths with a mist bottle. So overall, Noah does a great job of participating in his own care and his own training. So like other bald eagles, he is a bird of prey. He has that sharp hooked beak and those huge talons. So you might be able to see that I have a pretty significant glove on with Noah. If you've tuned into other Zoo School Lives, you've met so many of our birds of prey, and some of them we wear a much smaller glove, but with eagles, because of those large feet, we do have to wear a little bit more protection. In fact, eagle feet are extremely strong. If you make a fist at home and squeeze as hard as you can, as hard as possible, you're squeezing at around 10 pounds per square inch. But a bald eagle can squeeze over 400 pounds per square inch. So those talons and that foot strength combined make them a really amazing predator. As I said, they do hunt for fish, so they will actually sit around the water and watch. They have amazing eyesight. Many birds of prey do, and that's why we get the phrases, eagle eye or watch you like a hawk. Eagles can see pretty clearly for about a mile away, and they can actually focus their eyes in 2 different locations rather than just one like us. So eagles will sit up in the trees, they'll sit along the shoreline, they'll watch for their prey, and then they'll swoop down and use those large feet and talons to grab the fish. Now, Noah only weighs around 8.5 to 9 pounds, depending on the time of year, but he could carry off a fish that weighed between 5 and 10 pounds. In fact, they're known for being great swimmers as well, so if they go down and they catch a fish that's significantly heavier than maybe they expected, they can use those big wings to actually paddle themselves to shore and drag the fish with them so that they can eat it there. So they're pretty clever as well as when they're hunting for food. Now, as I mentioned before, Noah will live out the rest of his life here. We do have several other eagles that reside at Elmwood Park Zoo. If you guys have seen Zoo School before, we've tuned in to meet our entire eagle collection out on exhibit. Noah does not live on exhibit, so if you want to meet him, you actually have to come to the zoo and either make a special request or be here when he's out on his perch. So he does come out every single day for training and to make sure he stays comfortable and relaxed. Even though he's off right now this year from the eagle season, we want to make sure he continues to stay in that routine, which is super important for his welfare. So I want to see if we have any questions about our friend Noah before I continue on.
Alrighty, so it looks like we do have a few questions. So just a reminder, friends, if you do have any questions, please put them in the comments below. And if we don't get to your question right now, we will definitely be sure to check back in later. It looks like Kara is curious why he twists and turns his head so much.
Great question, Kara. So that is partly because of having one eye. So he does need to turn his head more frequently than we would or he normally would if he had 2, because he is trying to see everything. So having only one eye does flexible neck. Just like other raptors, they have extra neck bones to help them turn and focus, and also to help their neck and head stay still while their body's moving while they fly. So that's why he kind of has that very fluid motion. Now, unfortunately, because he did fall out of the nest and land basically on his head, he does have some neurologic damage, so there could be some brain injury. Now, he overall is pretty healthy, and we do our best to make sure he stays that way, but that does cause some lasting effects. So that's kind of a little tick that he has where he turns his head. Great question.
And Carol is interested in how old is Noah?
Noah is about 19 years old, so we roughly know his birthday. He was born in 2001. And as I said, he came here to Elmwood in 2008, so he's been with us for quite a while. And eagles can live well into their 40s, if not longer, in a zoo setting, as long as they're healthy and well cared for. So we hope that Noah will be with us for quite a long time.
All right, cruising through. Oh, someone says looks like Diana says she loves eagles.
Awesome. Yeah, if you guys have other questions, other comments, please put them in there. If we don't get them to right now, like Marissa said, we will check in on them later. I'm so glad you guys decided to join in with us today. And I wanted to make sure we also mention that today's episode is actually sponsored by Royal Farms. So we appreciate them assisting us with Zoo School. We always like the support from not only our viewers and our zoo fans, but also from other organizations in the area. So thank you to Royal Farms for sponsoring this episode for us today.
It looks like Diana's watching from Tampa, Florida. Thanks for watching.
Awesome. We love getting people from all over.
All
right, guys, if we don't have any further questions, I think we will sign off for the day. Thank you so much for joining myself and Noah. If you want to learn more about Noah or how you can actually meet him virtually, you should check out our Cameos section on our website, elmwoodparkzoo.org. You can actually set up a cameo to meet with Noah or our other eagle, Reggie. So if you're itching to have face-to-face time or face-to-beak time with any of our mascot birds, you can do that on our website. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day. Please tune in next Tuesday, and we will see you then.